Hello everybody, I'm Alyssa from Meditative Astrology, and today I'm here to talk with you about the astrology of June 29th through July 5th. We only have a few aspects that are happening this week, but the ones that we have are deep, strong, and powerful. So we don't want to miss what's going on this week. Before we get into all of that, reminder to like, follow, subscribe, so that way you don't miss anything we have going on here, like these weekly videos, as well as the live meditations that we have Sunday nights. Every Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we gather together live here on YouTube to meditate on the astrology, and really cool things come out of that. So join us for that, as well as coming back for the weekly videos. And now we'll get right into the things that we have going on this week. We start out right away with a bang here on Sunday. So June 29th, the moon starts out in the sign of Leo, and then it moves into the sign of Virgo just before 8 a.m. Eastern Time. We also have Mercury making opposition to Pluto here. So Mercury has recently moved into the sign of Leo. We talked about that last week, and is now opposing Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So this aspect here comes off of just a few aspects that Mercury has just made simultaneously. We talked about these in last week's video, so if you missed that, you can go back for a recap of that. But Mercury has just recently changed signs. Just before it changed signs, it made a square to Uranus. Just as it changed signs, it made a trine to Saturn and to Neptune. So there's been a lot going on within the last few days related to Mercury. Mercury, the planet that is closest to the sun, is very closely related to us personally. It's related to our mind, our thoughts, communications, perceptions, the different tools and resources that come to our aid, or the different routines, all the small little details and inner workings of our life. A lot of that has to do with Mercury. So all these quick aspects that we've had here could mean that they are touching different parts of your daily life or different parts of your psyche that are coming together here. And these are strong aspects: Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, these slower moving planets, even though Mercury is fast moving. So as Mercury comes into an opposition with Pluto, and the mind deepens, and we get this possibly investigative or probing aspect of the mind. Pluto dives down deep and looks into the corners, the nooks and the crannies, brings up everything that has been hidden. So the hidden things of our minds, the things that we don't necessarily think about. You could be a little bit skeptical as these things come through. So maybe if there's been lots of different energies to be contemplated, maybe we don't know exactly which ones to go with or which directions to think on. Things can be a little bit, not necessarily that things are vague, but more or less that we are, we're a little hesitant, or we're a little skeptical, or we just want to make sure we're going down the right path. So you could have that looking deep into the different hidden parts and just, okay, I want to make sure that I understand everything about this process, everything that's going on here. With these recent aspects that we've had here, maybe there have been reality truths that have presented themselves. Saturn. Maybe there has been inspiring, dreamy moments. Neptune. Maybe there's been things that feel like they've been kind of holding us back and we want to break away from them in a little bit. That'd be the aspect with Uranus. All these different things that could kind of be pulling at our mind. What do we do with that personally and collectively? Pluto, this aspect of Pluto now coming past all of that, is going to allow us to drill deep down in and just really sit with all the details, and maybe not only looking at the good things and the fun fuzzy things, but also drilling into those little aspects of whatever the situation is at hand, and getting into the deep stuff, getting into some of the yuck or the muck, the things that we don't necessarily always want to look at. This is a quick moving aspect. Mercury moves fairly quickly. But if we look at the 3-degree orb of engagement range, so anytime a planet is within 3 degrees of a planet, either applying to it or separating, the applying end would be a little bit stronger than the separating end, but that's the active range for the aspect, okay? So the 3-degree range started June 26th. So last Thursday is when it kind of started pulling in. On Sunday, June 29th, that is when it's going to come into exactness, and then it stays active until July 1st. So really we have this span of almost a week here, where we have this Mercury-Pluto thing that is going on. So it's really good energy for getting to the bottom of something. If there's something that you have been trying to problem solve or trying to work your way through, studying the details of a plan, maybe maybe looking at the resources and the assets, maybe looking at the way that we organize different things. This energy could be really, really good for that. Strategizing different things. And then if we look at the Leo Aquarius axis that we have going on here, we start to bring in the qualities of those signs. So Leo is a sign that looks at the individual, right? There is autonomy here, there is self-individualization. It's the place of the sun, right? It's the place of the soul, the light that when it's shining, you don't see any of the other planets that are out there. So you have that singular, and you have that individual expression in the sign of Leo. In the sign of Aquarius, things can be a lot more collective. It can be a lot more group focused. So we could have an individual versus collective type energy going on and kind of weighing the differences there. We could have the individual versus the humanity. So what is good for the individual? What is good for all of humankind, right? Like that type of thing. And playing along that Leo Aquarius axis here, and when we're talking about like getting to the bottom of something or studying the details of a plan or working out little nooks and crannies of something, and the resources, maybe there could be some level of things going from like a resource or an asset going from like a singular position to like a plural or multifaceted position somehow. So that's looking at that dichotomy of Leo being individual, singular, and then Aquarius being a little bit more all-encompassing and a little bit more of a collective type energy sometimes. So that's the energy that we have coming through here on Sunday, right off the bat, starting out this week with a bang. Like I said, not a lot of aspects. The ones that we have are really, really, really powerful. So that's what we have going on Sunday. And then if we move forward to Monday here, June 30th, we have the moon in the sign of Virgo. Not much else going on other than following the moon around here. So then that Virgo moon will take us right into Tuesday, July 1st. That moon starts out in the sign of Virgo and then it moves into the sign of Libra. You can see that we have a few aspects that the moon is making here, as well as coming into the first quarter moon phase. That Libra moon that comes through about 5 p.m. Eastern time, that is going to take us right into Wednesday, July 2nd. So this is a good week for following the moon around here. Wednesday, July 2nd, moon is in the sign of Libra all day here. We have a square to Jupiter, but other than that, we don't have any exact aspects that are going on here. And that that Libra moon is going to take us right into Thursday as well. So here we are on July 3rd. Libra moon, and not a whole lot going on other than following that moon around a little bit here. And then we come forward into Friday. Now we're at Friday, July 4th. Happy Independence Day to all of those of you in the United States. We come out with that Libra moon in the beginning. So the moon will move into Scorpio around 5:30 a.m. Eastern time. Makes a square to Pluto. That's a little bit of an intense energy. But we also have Venus conjoining Uranus here on Friday. So on Friday, as we have Venus conjoining Uranus, the moon starts out in the sign of Libra. So I like that the moon starts out in Venus's other sign. Venus is in its home sign of Taurus here, and it's at 29 degrees that we have Venus conjoining Uranus. So the conjunction is the strongest aspect between any planets. It's considered the two planets melding their significations together. So it's like you're taking part of Venus, you're taking part of Uranus, and it's not that they're trying to work together, they're becoming together. They're becoming a union, and they are melding together in some sort of way here. When you have Venus and Uranus coming together in any sort of contact, there can be sudden changes. There can be excitement. There can be electric excitement coming through. There can be the urge to break away from anything that can be stealing peace and balance within your life. There can be material world manifestations here. It's in the sign of Taurus. It's an earth sign. It's a physical sign. So seeing things really playing out, physical changes, aesthetics, breakthroughs in relations and relationships. These are all Taurian type things that could be coming up here for you. It's like we have this final exclamation mark here, as both Venus and Uranus are both getting ready to move into the sign of Gemini. Venus spending about a month there. Uranus has spent the better portion of about 7 years there. That Uranus shift is going to be a big thing that we're talking about here in a couple weeks. It's like these two planets are going out of the sign in a bang, and they are coming together in a way that they want to create something solid. It's this last push to create something. However Uranus has been playing out within your lives, this is the last blast of it. And then we have Venus coming into that conjunction there, and it's like Venus is saying, okay, all this work that Uranus has done in the sign of Taurus, all of the shakeups, all of the shifts where the house of Taurus falls within your own lives, that has been happening here. How can we now bring some harmony? How can we bring some peace, balance? What exactly is it that you have been looking for? What is it that you have been working towards? What have you been moving towards breaking free from? Has there been something that has been limiting in the past and you have been working your way towards some sort of freedom or reaching some sort of whatever feels like the final manifestation here? It is not unusual to want to just do something totally different than you normally do when Venus and Uranus come together. There could be a way of feeling like we are a little bit pinned down, but that feeling of being pinned down is kind of stemming off of wanting to do something different, or wanting to really be true to ourselves, or just wanting to experience something different, or not holding back within some way. It can lead to some really polarizing shifts. It can lead to some shakeups. Not all good, not all bad. It can be a combination, but something different. Wanting to go a different way, choose something different. Not wanting to, with Uranus spending so much time in any given sign, there can be a real yo-yo back and forth. There can be some instability in that sign, right? So with Venus coming through this last conjunction here, it's like, no, I'm not going to do the wishy-washy anymore. What we have built here is solid. It's Taurus. It's a solid sign. Even though Uranus is erratic and shifts things, what really it's been doing is it's been shaking things up where the house topics that where Taurus falls within your own chart. So look at the whole sign house of Taurus if things aren't already kind of popping into your mind there of how this type of stuff is working out here. And if I go ahead and put up the chart here, you will see that, oh, sorry, that's not the chart. Those are the cards. We're going to put up the chart here. Okay. If I put up the chart here, if I put up the chart here, at this chart, Venus and Uranus are conjoined here. If I bring it forward just slightly, just an hour here, Venus moves into the sign of Gemini this day as well. So it's like Venus really is going out right at the very end of being in Taurus, being in this place where she can create harmony, and she can maybe, if Venus in Aries has been in a place where things are a little bit rough, a little gruff, or a little bit tougher, it feels like we really have to kind of fight for ourselves. Then she went into the sign of Taurus, and she's spent about a month there where she's been feeling some peace, feeling some harmony. Maybe there's been some things that have worked out well, and there's been some flow, and things have just kind of fell into place in some sort of way. It's like now, as she comes into contact with Uranus at the very last degree, it's like, okay, I'm not going back to however I felt when my peace was stolen from me, or when I wasn't able to fully express myself. We are going to go forward. We are going to have the exciting revolutionary change of Uranus here, and then we're going to move into the sign of Gemini. Venus is going to ingress into the sign of Gemini around here on Friday, and becomes much more social, much more communicative, much more curious, and there's an ability to communicate well and to converse cohesively in the sign of Gemini. So when Venus is there, there's friendly conversation. We could be excited and curious about all the different information that's coming in with all of the different things that we are thinking about here. Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini, is in the sign of Leo right now, so that just amps up the vitality and that forwardness energy. Both Gemini and Leo are both masculine signs, so there's just a little bit more of an extroverted energy rather than an introverted or like an assertive type energy versus a receptive type energy. So Venus is now in a space where she's just willing to bring in more information. She wants to think about more. She wants to talk about more. She wants to bring in more ideas, more information. She wants to find out more ways to do all the things and to keep going. There's just some really, really good things that Venus in the sign of Gemini can start to progress or bring in different things, bring in different ideas, and start to shift with that. So it's really, really exciting process that we have going through here. Last week we had a big process going through for Mercury. Now we have this nice little process for Venus that is coming through here. So really, really cool energy that we have coming through here with that ingress that we have. And then if we move forward into Friday here, Saturday, July 5th, the moon is in the sign of Scorpio all day. We have an aspect here as well. Venus is making a sextile to Saturn, and Neptune is stationing to turn retrograde here. So Venus sextiling Saturn. Communicate boundaries. That's the first thing that came up to my mind when I started thinking about this aspect. So the sextiles, they can be subtle, but they can also be very, very helpful. They can be those type of things that you kind of start to notice the energy afterwards. When you have, so they could be a little subtle a little bit here, but the energy is still there. Anytime that you have Venus and Saturn coming together, there can be a maturation of the way that things flow. In the sign of Gemini, we can have some sort of mature conversation, or the thoughts that come to our mind can be a little bit more, I don't want to say necessarily mature, maybe progressed. I don't know if that's quite the right word. I don't want it necessarily to sound better, but we just start to think about things a little bit differently, and we start to consider more ideas that maybe we haven't considered before coming through here. As we start to communicate and we start to talk, and as that cohesive conversation comes through with Venus in the sign of Gemini, those boundaries need to be set. So this aspect to Saturn here, they're both, again, we're talking about masculine signs. They can detach a little bit, and they can see things from a little bit of more of an objective perspective, possibly. So there could be realizations of what does and does not bring peace to the mental sphere here. And it could be a little bit of a serious look of, like, these things are serving my peace, these things are not serving my peace. I like this for a little helpful mental health situation with Venus in the sign of Gemini. We can all use a little bit more friendly voice within our head. I don't necessarily think of Saturn being always the friendly voice, but when Venus and Saturn are coming together in the sextile, it could be that if things are brewing in our mind that are a little more structural or foundational, they could really, really benefit us in the long run. So like, think about sitting down and having a talk with your grandmother, right? Like, she's going to give you some real world advice, but she's going to do it in a Venusian and Gemini type of way, kind of like that. So this could be a really helpful stabilizing moment for Venus that is in the sign of Gemini, who could be a little bit all over. Gemini likes to bring in all the information and all of the different things. So this could kind of focus Venus a little bit and allow us to make a plan. There could be brainstorming productive ideas that could come here. It could involve others, that communication aspect of Gemini, and really just that collaborative energy of Mercury in general. And then Neptune stationing to go retrograde this day as well here. So the retrograde periods for the outer planets are much, much longer than the inner planets, right? So they could be a little bit more thematic than event-oriented, but there could be events that happen here too. When I think about Neptune going retrograde, I think about the typical retrograde things, right? So things are being reconsidered, things are being reworked, reorganized. We're looking at things a little bit deeper. So I'm thinking about our ambitions. I'm thinking about what inspires us. I'm thinking about our philosophical beliefs and the things that we feel strongly about. So Neptune in the sign of Aries can move kind of quickly, right? Aries is a cardinal sign. Things can move really, really fast, really, really quickly. Maybe as as Neptune has been in the sign of Aries, maybe we've moved a little bit too fast for some things. Maybe we need to reconsider things and just kind of slow down a little bit here. So, you know, maybe we have started moving into an action that we are like really inspired to move forward, but we didn't quite have a full plan, right? And then we have the Venus-Saturn thing that can come through and kind of give us a little bit of a, kind of make things a little bit more clear, give us a little bit more of a plan, or look at the details a little bit more here. And maybe there's been a way that we have become disconnected with somehow. Maybe we need to reimagine or bring back the dream or something that we've kind of lost touch with here. When I think of Neptune, I think about enchantment and I think about, you know, magical things. But when Neptune is going retrograde, maybe there's some sort of disenchantment that happens. Maybe this is a point of pulling off some sort of metaphorical rose-colored glasses that we've been wearing. And, you know, if Neptune in Aries has had us jumping too fast into something that seems sparkly and maybe it's kind of dwindled a little bit, then maybe we need to take a step back. This retrograde is going to take us from the sign of Aries back into the sign of Pisces before moving back into Aries again. Maybe we need to pause the action Aries, and in some way go back to a space of feeling into the situation. Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So maybe we need to feel into it, collect more, doing less, reflect, and then act. Maybe it's a bit of the process that we are going through. And like I mentioned, the retrograde is a long process, so this really takes us through the rest of 2025. You know, Neptune will move back into Pisces in October, it will go direct in December, and then in January of 2026, Neptune will move back into the sign of Aries. So this retrograde it's a long process, and it's not necessarily that like the day that Neptune's retrograde, all of a sudden, you know, we're gonna feel all these things, but this might be a process that is coming through here. When Neptune is retrograde, I think about a possibility of internalizing things, so internalizing disconnections and detachments, feelings of isolation, fear, anxiety. Those are all possible. I would think that they are mostly possible and probable when there's other transits in the chart that also add to that situation and also kind of indicate that a little bit. I don't think that that's necessarily meaning that we're all going to be running around as a ball of anxiety for the next 6 months. At least I sure hope not. But that is a possibility with Neptune going retrograde. So just keeping that in consideration, especially depending on where it hits within your chart and what else is going on in your own chart there. So I think about a healthy dissociation with Neptune going retrograde, you know, detaching where it's necessary, but making sure we don't have our head buried in the sand or we're not wearing those rose-colored glasses too much, right? Like, this can be personal and collective here, of course. But sometimes, you know, sometimes it's nice to kind of, it's a good thing to like turn your head away from things and not have full eyes on everything all at one time within discretion and within what works, of course, here. So those are the things I think about with Neptune going retrograde. Of course, we'll talk more about this as Neptune moves and goes retrograde and keeps moving backwards. So that's what we have going on this week. Again, not a whole lot of aspects, but what's going on is really strong. It's really, really important. And there are things about the process and the path that we are all on. We're all on our own individual path. You know, the astrology hits all of our charts differently because our charts are all built differently, just like our lives are all built differently. So it can play out differently for everybody. So thank you for sticking with me through this video and going through the entire week with me. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. It's a holiday week in the United States, so be safe, be careful, have fun, and I will see you next week at our weekly video. One last reminder to like, follow, subscribe, so that way you don't miss anything we have going on here. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, social media, on the website, meditativeastrology.com. That's also where you can book readings and just the central hub for all things meditative astrology. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I will see you back here next time. Take care.